Showstopper was once referred to as the strongest killer in Daybreak. Her reign lasted for years, even through an entire character change. She used to be nearing the top of the tier list every time, with her name striking fear into anyone when seen in chat. However, she's now at the bottom of the tier list, with her ability often feeling useless. What happened? Before talking about Showstopper, we need to talk about her predecessor, and who it was. That being the Virtuoso. The Virtuoso is easily the strongest killer in Daybreak 1 specifically. Her ability only had a 4-second cooldown, which is insane. The premise of the ability was that she could block any vault for a certain amount of time. I never played Daybreak 1, so I never got to experience the tragedy of the Virtuoso. However, I have gone back and played it a few times, and the times I've gone against her, it's kind of been a tragedy. However, her ability didn't just block a vault, in the sense that Showstopper blocks the vaults. You genuinely was not able to at all vault that vault. There was one big reason for her existing, however. That's because Daybreak 1 was very survivor-sided, even more so compared to Daybreak 2. Often in places there was like 3-4 vaults on just one house. For example, in Roanoke Woods, the main building, that is one massive infinite loop. It's like half of the building has gone and been deleted compared to Daybreak 1. The designs of Daybreak 1 maps are insane, with a lot of them just being infinite loopable all the time, everywhere, with a lot of killers standing no chance. You thought it was bad in Daybreak 2? Go take a look at Daybreak 1 and you'll see what I mean. After Daybreak 1, Daybreak 2 brought the Showstopper. I'm pretty sure another reason for the Virtuoso being deleted was due to the fact that their creator, was a bit controversial. But in reality, a big reason, in my opinion, was due to the Virtuoso's insane strength and the reputation she had brought up over the years of her existing. I don't actually know how long she existed for. At the beginning of Daybreak 2, Showstopper was feared. She was incredibly strong, and due to the fact that the game was so incredibly new, people didn't know how to loop her, and were still trying to figure out all the mechanics to do with the game. I mean, in general, her ability is an incredibly strong one, so it makes sense that she was incredibly strong, and it was incredibly difficult for people to actually loop her. The premise of being able to block a vault and prevent people from vaulting it kind of is a very strong thing, especially considering the fact that the only way survivors are actually able to escape the killer is through vaulting, and if you take away that option for them, then they don't really have much else to do other than bait it, which is incredibly difficult depending on the killer, well, the killer's skill level. When it came to playing against a Showstopper, you'd often lose, and normally a Showstopper would always win their games, and it'd be incredibly difficult to win against them due to how inherently strong she was. Over the time for Showstopper's existence, she's had many, many nerfs, but not big nerfs. A lot of them have been very minor, which have all accumulated into her what she has become today. First nerf was speed 3 to 4, speed per stack 0.2 to 0.12, bonus vault speed 75% to 50%. Overall, this nerf didn't really do too much. It only decreased her end speed by a little bit, but it made her starting a lot stronger, which overall I would say is a buff. It'd make her a lot more reliable. That nerf is in 2023 in October. The next nerf she got was in 2024 in February. The Showstopper, speed per stack 0.125 down to 0.115. New, At max stacks, vaults only block for 10 seconds as opposed to 15 seconds. Again, this is another minor change and a minor nerf at that. I didn't mention it, but her stack gain did increase from 1.2 to 1.25, but it wasn't that necessary to mention. Overall, she's kept a lot of her original power, and she hasn't really changed in the tier list at this point. She's still incredibly strong, incredibly reliable, and can often just end chases incredibly fast before they even begin. Over the next few months, the showstopper got so many nerfs and a few tweaks and a buff or two. Majority of it was just nerfing her stacks, making it so her stacks were a lot weaker than they actually are. Well, I mean before. In July the 5th, 2024, the showstopper got a buff. Max stacks removed. Now always blocks vault for 10 seconds. Daunting presence slow, 10 seconds down to 8. Bonus speed 0.095 to 1. Terror radius 4 to 5. Speed 4 to 5. No longer gets stacks for killing survivors. This was a big change, but also an incredibly controversial one with a lot of people. This change essentially countered Iris, making her a useless teammate when it came to playing against Showstopper. She was already an incredibly oppressive killer at this point. Not incredibly, but a very oppressive killer. And to buff her speed made her even more of a nightmare, especially considering now it made it easier to get stacks. Earlier in the video, I was talking about how she had an accumulation of nerfs, small nerfs, which ended up making her incredibly weak and brought her to the position she is in today. But I didn't mention that she had one big final buff before the end of her career as the most feared daybreak killer. This buff makes it seem like Showstopper isn't gonna ever get nerfed into the ground. I mean, you go on buff her weakest part, but then nerf her strongest part, but you don't even majorly nerf her strongest area, being her late game. A little bit later, she ended up getting a bit of a nerf. Her max stacks were re-added and limited to 8, and then her lunge speed was nerfed from 2.5 down to 2. With that previous buff, it kind of felt like there was something brewing for the Showstopper. Something big, something which is going to end her. And something did. On July 24th, 2024, a few days later, Showstopper was to get the biggest nerf ever. Mirror stay time, 10 seconds down to 7.5. Sound cue is now louder and audible from a bigger distance. New. There is now a 0.5 second delay before the vault is actually blocked. This is the infamous nerf which ended Showstopper and her reign. That 0.5 second delay turned her into the clunky mess she is today. But how does a 5.5 second delay do that? When it comes to chase, that 0.5 seconds is incredibly long, allowing for survivors to vault right through it, and if you so happen to place it early enough, they can easily just transition to another vault. The only way to reliably use it is when it comes to one-wayers, which are often avoided when it comes to survivors sometimes. But also are not on every map, and if they are, there aren't very many of them. She also kept all of those previous nerfs, which have turned her early game, then end game, into something incredibly frustrating. Her new end speed compared to her old has become so slow, and with this new nerf, it doesn't really feel worth it. This makes it so you can't really play on massive maps, but also you don't want to play on maps with vaults which are incredibly close to each other, as sometimes a vault can be really janky to place, and sometimes gets placed on a vault behind it, which the survivor's not actually going to. She also suffers from another thing. You need to play her in lobbies with 7 to 8 people, and that's just not feasible all the time. So again, she's incredibly restrictive. You would have thought a character who essentially counters the only way survivors can live would have been forever strong. However, like Nurse, they kind of nerfed the one specific thing which would have ended up killing her. And it did kill her. When I compare her to Nurse, I mean, for Nurse, the two blinks she has is incredibly and how strong she is, much like Showstopper and that zero point 0.5 seconds. So, what does that mean for the future of Showstopper and what we are hoping for when it comes to her in general and her balance? There's not much we can hope for. It's been a year since that nerf, and not once has she's been buffed, she's been nerfed, but none of these buffs or nerfs have actually changed anything about her. We're getting the changes of rage abilities, and we all know that they're probably going to end up getting nerfed when they get released, and again, killers will be weak. However, it begs the question: what do you think Showstopper's rage ability will be? I have no idea what they could do. Um, I don't know if they'll end up doing something completely different to Showstopper herself, or I don't know. We'll find out. Let me know what you think. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully my editing is a bit better. I'm still trying to figure out what to do for my editing and what if I should do more or if I should keep it a little bit more minimal. I don't know. I'll figure it out at some point. I will keep trying. Anyways, bye bye.